And thank you for watching Family Lifestyles. I'm LaToya Drake, your Barron County agent for Family and Consumer Sciences with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. And I'm here today with Emily Matthews, our SNAP assistant in Barron County. So happy to have her. A SNAP assistant, we'll talk about what she does in our office a little bit so you can be reminded of that. But she's here today to talk to us about victory gardens. And I'm excited to hear about this because in the wake of this pandemic and coronavirus, we saw the stores, the food disappear from some of the shelves. We saw a lot of food disappear from the store, which was scary. So it seems more folks than ever are starting to grow their own food at home and connecting with local farmers. So it's important that we talk about this and get some strategies so we're prepared to grow our food in the best way. So Emily, what do you have for us today?
So I have a couple different things I wanted to talk about. And like you said, the Victory Garden campaign, and that's something that we rolled out at the beginning of June, end of May. And it's just a collaboration between our offices, University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension, Kentucky State University, and then Kentucky Department of Agriculture. It's a campaign, they kind of created, because like you said, at the very beginning of all this, food was kind of going away from the grocery stores, and I think everybody wanted to figure out how to become more self-sustainable and figure out how to grow their own food. So a lot of different people were reaching out to our offices or maybe the Department of Ag, and they were trying to figure out how they could kind of get these resources out and package it into a program. So the Victory Garden campaign started. They have several different materials that are that they created for that, and we'll kind of talk about some of those. But it's really just to kind of help teach families and children how to grow their own food and how to kind of get in touch with their roots in agriculture and getting all of that started. But the toolkit itself, it's a really neat toolkit. So it comes with a poster, and you can see the poster here. And then on the back of the poster, it has different...
I love this poster because it is a throwback to the old
Victory Garden
posters.
But then on the back of it, what I like is it gives you some different materials that you can kind of look at. It talks about for a family of 4 or for a family of 2, how many different plants you need to plant, so you know how much you will be able to feed your family with. Because, you can do things like my husband and I have kind of overdone it a little bit with our garden. So we've grown too much, and that's kind of hard and it's overwhelming. So you want to make sure that if it's your first time gardening too, you're doing something that you can sustain and that you can manage and have the right amount of food to kind of help you supplement with your grocery shopping. It gives you the different benefits of gardening, and there's several different benefits with gardening, and I think that's something that is overlooked a lot. Like I said, the campaign was kind of rolled out to help with, maybe supplementing somebody's grocery shopping. So if there weren't these things readily available, they could supplement that, and that helps to maybe lower your monthly costs at the grocery store also.
And that's a part of the SNAP vision of our University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Services. And SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, right, Emily?
Yes.
And what that does is, can you explain a little bit what SNAP does?
SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's that food dollar that they kind of give to families and different individuals.
Formerly food stamps.
Food stamps, yeah. So that is that's one part of it, and then our part of it is we're the educational kind of component to it. We go and we help to teach how to stretch those food dollars and use them properly to get very nutritious, meals and budget friendly, and help families just kind of make it work through the whole month.
By teaching
different strategies, different food preparation skills, different things like that.
And gardening.
And gardening is kind of one of those. And so this is something that you can use it doesn't have to be a big garden. You can do different things like a small raised bed or a container garden, and those can help supplement some of your,
You have an in-ground tilled garden, correct?
Yeah, so it's a larger tilled garden. Like I said, we kind of overdid it this year.
How many rows of vegetables do you have?
So we have, I don't even know. There's 5 rows of corn, 2 rows of beans, a whole row of zucchini, and then there's probably 10 rows in total. I mean, there's several rows. We have potatoes. We have several different things.
About how many square feet? Do you know?
Oh, I have no
several
idea.
Square feet.
Several square feet. It's a lot. It's a lot bigger than it probably needs to be for just 2 people and a baby. It is fun though because we get to grow some of those vegetables, and then when I steam them for our baby to eat, I know where that's coming from. So I like that.
And you know what's put in that.
And I know what's put in that, and then it's kind of a reward in itself because of all the hard work that you've put in it. I mean, it's another benefit of gardening is that physical activity component.
That's hard work.
It is hard work. So that's why you want to make sure you do something that's manageable for you and for
your
your activity level,
Yeah.
because you might not be able to go out there and pull those weeds up. So you might want to have a smaller area that you can maintain rather than a larger area that can become overrun really quick.
And you live in the county, so you have access to more land. But someone like me, I live in town in Glasgow, so that might not be the most appropriate thing for me is to till up my whole
Your whole yard. Yeah,
because
right
that's the
town.
side of her garden. I like to grow in containers, or that's what I'm experimenting more in because that's what my speed is. And then in doing that and spreading this Victory Garden mission, I often trade with neighbors. So that's something to consider. I have a few pepper plants. I've got a couple tomato plants. I got an eggplant, and it's growing right beside my house, and it's therapeutic for me to go out and work in my little garden.
And that's another benefit is, it kind of helps improve your mood and your stress levels and, mental health. It's something that you can really, and it's nice because you get that, like you said, that neighborhood kind of feel too when you're trading stuff out. So gardening has just a ton of benefits. But so back to the toolkit. So we talked about the poster. You get the information that's on the back, but there's also different things that you get from the toolkit. There's several different publications that the university has developed for gardening. So this one is just a basic one on like preparing your own garden. So you have all of those publications. There's some on growing peppers and just different commodities. And then the Kentucky State University also has some as well. So like I said, it's a collaborative effort, and they have come up with all these publications that are really easy to read. They're laid out well so that you can see, the different things like working the soil in, fertilizing, how to make a raised bed. Maybe your back isn't as able to do stuff as you used to be able to, so you need it up a little bit higher. So it gives you tips for just different things like that, and growing your own garden, working on your transplants, seeding, different things. So there's all of those. And then you also get this really nice calendar, and this is probably my favorite part of the whole toolkit. It's this Growing Your Garden calendar, and the neat thing about this that they made it's dry erase. So because it's dry erase, you can use it year after year, so it's not something that...
It's sustainable.
Yeah, it's sustainable in itself as well. So these calendars are just great. I really like the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think with gardening, that's something that a lot of people don't think about, and my husband and I included. We kind of waited until the last minute this year to decide if we were going to do a garden again, and it's kind of like everybody else. In the wake of things that had happened, we thought maybe we needed to. But with this calendar, it starts in January, goes all the way through the year, and it gives you the tips on what you can do like each month. So at the beginning of January, it might just be planning the layout of your garden, drawing it on a piece of paper, kind of getting an idea. And it gives you tips on how to involve your family. So if you have children, it gives you those tips of, maybe they could cut pictures of vegetables out of a magazine that they would like, and lay it, cut and paste it onto a piece of paper. So you can see kind of what they might be interested in growing, and that could also increase some of their nutrition habits too.
And exposure
to that stuff. So that's something that you can do in January. It goes through the whole year though, and it's just a really handy calendar. It gives you the layout week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 of the different things that you can do all the way through the year and through the growing season. So it is a really neat resource. But along with this calendar, so maybe your office, your local extension office is out of these. What they've done is they've made this available online as well as a printable version. So now it wouldn't be that sustainable dry erase version like this, but you can have access to it still online. Even if you don't want to get out and get one of these calendars, you can get online and get that. So
many wonderful resources at your local extension service related to starting your own Victory Garden. For questions at that, reach out to us and we'll get that to you. Right now, we'll be back to talk more about Victory Gardens on Family Lifestyles. Thank you.
What would you give for a child you loved to make their wish come true? To help them fight a critical illness? Just imagine what you'd do. You see, wishes are so powerful, and you can make them real. They can give a child back their childhood, even change the way they feel. Every single one of us can make the stars align, because when we come together, hope and joy will shine.
Cause in a sky full of stars, I think I saw
Welcome back to Family Lifestyles. I'm LaToya Drake, your Barron County agent for Family and Consumer Sciences with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. And I'm here today with Barron County SNAP Assistant, Miss Emily Matthews. And we're so excited to have her because we've been talking about strategies to incorporate in your household for starting your own victory garden and growing your own vegetables. So we're ready to continue this conversation. Right now, summer garden season is over, so we're thinking about prepping for our fall garden, right?
Yes. So, a lot of people think of summertime as being the only time that you can garden, but you can actually extend that season on up into the fall. Right now, at the beginning of August, middle of August is a good time to start planting those cooler crops or those fall vegetables. So it's something that's really great because you get to extend that season. All that hard work you put in, if you did till up a garden, it's not just for a couple months and it's over. You can extend that and harvest vegetables all the way up until like November. So fall gardens are something that I feel like are overlooked. I know I've overlooked it in the past. We were kind of done after those last tomatoes were done, but there's just different things that you can do in the fall.
Many folks in our communities have high tunnels or greenhouses, which are
and that's very handy. So you can extend that season, year round, and that's great because we continue to have that local produce around. And I think that local produce, things that are just grown locally just taste better, if you ask me. So I just think that growing your own food, or even finding it, if you don't grow your own garden, if this isn't something that you think you would want to do or have interest in, or even be able to do yourself, buying that local food is another way that you can save money as well. From farmers markets and things, because that local in-season food is usually more cost efficient and more flavorful and nutritious. But going back to the fall garden, so we talked about this calendar a little bit on the last part, and so it gives you the different things that you can do on up, and prep for your fall garden. What to do. So this is kind of like in August. So we're in the month of August now. And August is the time for, making the last planting. Sometimes you have some warm season crops that you could still plant, some vegetables that you could plant at the beginning. And then you've also got different things like broccoli that you could plant. And broccoli, in that, the hotter days, cooler nights, there's a different flavor that can be produced from that broccoli. So that's something that is good this time of year also.
It's not going to bolt as quickly with colder weather.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So the bolting, with your greens, your mustard, different things like that. But you want to keep a close look for like different pests and stuff. And it gives you all the tips in this calendar, and that's why I really like it. It talks about, in week 1 of August to begin seeding transplants for trays for the fall, to get ready to plant, mid-August, end of August. And there's different resources, along with this toolkit. If you get on planeatmove.com, you have access to like this calendar for free. Yeah, it's all free resources, which is such a great thing for our community to have, and all communities in Kentucky to have. It's a free resource. You can get on and look at this, and there's also the publication for growing a home garden. It gives you the table that you can see what vegetable you might want to do and when is the earliest or the latest time that you could plant that in your area. And I think that's handy for people to see, because there's so much guesswork, I guess, that you might think, or there's so much planning. And this resource here and then those resources online kind of take that guesswork away from you.
That's my favorite tool is the garden chart.
I'm a very visual person, and I like to be able to look at it and be like, okay, so this is the day that I'm going to plant this, and this is when it should be ready to be harvested. It kind of gives you that maturity, timeline there for those vegetables.
To add to that tool that is the resource about what's in season, I like to use it to base my menus on, thinking about what to cook.
What you're going to cook.
If eating in season and local vegetables, you're going to be able to buy those cheaper.
Yeah,
it's going to be more affordable.
And it's going to have a fresher taste. It's not been driven across the country. It's going to last longer, and that's something else that you can really stretch those food dollars with when you're trying to make those in-season vegetables. They just last longer. You don't want to put them in your refrigerator or store them at your home and then them go bad pretty quickly. And so that's something that I think is just really great. Another thing that they gave with the toolkit, and talking about making things last longer, are these different cards for vegetables. So it gives you, your Kentucky commodity here. And so this one's for broccoli. And on the back of it, it tells you how to store it. And I think that's something that a lot of people might have some misunderstandings with.
I have to look up stuff all the time, and I work in food.
A good general rule is where you bought it at the grocery store is where you should store it at home. So typically if you buy say onions, they're sitting out in a cool environment. You want to keep those in a cool, dry area rather than refrigerated, because they're not in the refrigerated section. Everybody, of course, has their different ways of storing things, but I think this also helps because it gives you, how to store it, unwashed in your refrigerator in a plastic bag. and then how to use it, to wash your broccoli, cut away tough older parts of the stalk, and then you can serve it ready to eat or different ways to cook it. And so I think these are handy. It gives you when they're ripe and tasty, so June, July, and then October through November. Like I said, because this is one of those crops that you could put out in fall. So these are just really handy, so you can look at it, and it gives you tips on like what to look for when you're purchasing it. Because I think a lot of times with different fruits or vegetables, you want to get that good quality one. And so I know there's different tricks like with watermelon and things like that. And this also takes that guesswork out. So it gives you what to look for in the grocery store or at the farmer's market to know that it's at its like ripest, fresh quality.
And it's important to know these things. We're all cooking at home more and eating out less due to the corona. So it's important that we know how to store our food so we're not wasting food.
Yeah, so that's something we want to cut down on, is that food waste. Because when you cut that food waste down, you're stretching your food dollar. And that's just something really handy just to know. So these recipe cards I think are great, or the little product information cards. And those also, you can find those online as well with the toolkit. So those are just really handy
We often give those out at the farmer's market in our farmer's market bag for SNAP folks and double dollar folks. That's something that you want to make sure that you check into at your local farmer's market. Many of them double SNAP dollars or double senior vouchers so that your food budget is stretched and you can buy more fresh and in-season vegetables.
And then you're getting that nutrition into your home, and I think that's really important because there's a lot of adults and children that we kind of lack in that fruit and vegetable consumption in Kentucky. And so that's something we want to improve. And I think it's helpful when you have that fresh and seasoned stuff, or if you're growing it on your own. That's something that's exciting too. When you're growing your own garden, I think it's exciting for children to see it happen, and they learn how their food is made and where it comes from.
It takes 15 plus exposures for children to like a vegetable. So just touching that is an exposure.
And that helps them to kind of, I think that effort that they put into the garden, or that effort even taking them to the farmer's market and letting them pick something out, it makes it a more exciting experience for them, and it's something that kind of helps them increase that exposure and that want to try. So it's really handy. All the tools in this toolkit are really great. And getting back to your agricultural roots, growing your own garden, it's just something that I think is really helpful, like we said, for all those different reasons, different benefits for your health, wellness, and just different things like that.
And we're here with strategies at your extension service for growing that garden. So make sure that you reach out for those, because it's free, and we offer a lot of great tools at the expense of just being a taxpayer. So it's just awesome to have those.
Yeah, they are really handy and helpful. And then, of course, you can get different resources, like I said, online. And then we also have other things that you can do. And I think one thing that's great that ties in with these that we have through the university is those plated up Kentucky Proud recipes.
Oh, yeah.
They're also really handy with as far as like the storage tips and selection and different things like that. On the back of those recipes as well, you can find things like this.
And I think cooking in-season recipe and vegetables, that's really helped in my planning process for eating in season and saving money.
Yeah. Saving money and stretching that food dollar is what you really want to do, especially right now. There's so much uncertainty and you're kind of worried about things. Just stretching that food dollar and finding those in-season items and cooking those in-season items and making them last and different things like that is something that is just really handy for all families of different income levels, it's just something that's a handy tip for everybody to just kind of know how to select and store foods.
And eat those things that are fresh and eat those good vegetables, because that's going to be what is great for us and to get that good nutrition in our body. We're going to talk more about strategies for eating vegetables as well as one of our plated up Kentucky Proud recipes when we return to Family Lifestyles in a moment. Thank you for watching.
Another summer day has come and gone away. From Paris or Rome, but I wanna go home. Oh, I miss you, Let me go home. It'll all be alright. I'll be home tonight. I'm coming back home.
Welcome back to Family Lifestyles. I'm LaToya Drake, your Barron County Cooperative Extension Service Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences. And I'm here today with our SNAP assistant in Barron County, Miss Emily Matthews. And we've been talking about victory gardens and in-season vegetables and produce and growing our own gardens. And now we're here to talk about what to do with this produce after we grow it, as well as what is in season, so that we can plan how we're cooking from our gardens to get the most bang for our food buck, right?
Yeah, so you're like we talked about earlier, you really want to get that bang for your dollar and stretch that food dollar, eat that local food, different things like that. So another resource that we have, because we've talked about all the resources that we have, is a Kentucky Proud produce availability chart. And those charts are really handy for you to look at. It's also available on that website that you can see. I have one here, yeah. So I have it. You can print that. It talks about the different things that you can find in Kentucky, the different types of produce commodities, and when they're available. And I think it's really important, when you're trying to stretch your food dollar, that you meal plan. And that doesn't necessarily mean you cook all your stuff once and you're doing it that week. Meal planning can just be a lot of things. It could be planning for the month, different things that you're going to eat based on what is in season or based on what budget you kind of have to work with and different things like that.
I meal plan based on what's in my CSA, Emily. I get a community-supported agriculture basket from the Bounty of the Barrens Farmers Market in Barron County, and the farmer puts together a basket of a variety of vegetables that looks like this basket, and whatever's in that basket, I plan my meals based on what's in that. So like yesterday, I had roasted potatoes with burgers because that's what was in the basket.
And that's handy. It's handy to do that if you plan your meals ahead, and it takes a lot of that, we talked about guesswork, that calendar. It takes your guesswork and some of that stress of what am I going to cook tonight or this week. When you know what's readily available to you, you can kind of plan some different things. And so that produce availability chart is handy to look at. So in the month of August, there's so many different things that are ready. One of the main things that is starting to be ready right now in our gardens are beans.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere right now.
You hate beans, don't you?
I feel like I have snapped beans until my fingers are going to bleed at this point. But I actually have started to enjoy it towards the end now that I've
Towards the end, now it's almost over?
Yeah, not towards the end, but there's still, actually it's not. There's still flowers on my plant. So I think that's going to keep going for me through some of the month of August also. So it's going to be...
How many pints or quarts of beans have you canned so far?
I have only canned so far, I have more to can right now, but I've only canned so far about 10 quarts. So I've not done near as many as what everybody else has done. But this is a first for me. This is the first time that I have done that. So it's been fun to learn.
These are your beans here?
These are my beans here. The beans in this basket came from my garden. And so these beans in this bowl here were just steamed for about 5 minutes. And we'll talk about that recipe in a little bit. But beans are something that are readily available during the month of August, and it's more than just green beans. You've got lima beans. I mean, there's all kinds of different types of bush beans that are and pole beans that would be ready at that time. But yeah, beans are. It's been a fun experience, a learning experience, and that was another. We talked all about our UK resources. I've used a lot of our UK canning resources as well. So there's just so many things that it's a handy thing for this time of year, and throughout the whole year that the university offers for us and for the community as well.
To extend knowledge into the community.
That knowledge that we give out, and it's all research-based stuff, which is really important right now, is that research-based information.
And free. I reiterate this.
We'll say that over and over again.
Well, your tax dollars
really
covered
important.
that, but that is a resource for every member in the 120 counties of Kentucky is the Extension Service. So make sure that you're using us during the coronavirus pandemic and beyond, right?
But so like we talked about, the plated up recipes kind of tie in some of that Kentucky Proud and that Kentucky produce that's available. There's so many different recipes. You guys test new recipes all the time, and they're all great. One of the ones we're going to try today, it is the green beans with feta cheese and dill, and it's one of the easiest recipes that I think that we have, because it's what I like to call a dump recipe. And so you just kind of dump all the ingredients together, mix it up, and it's all ready to go.
You did have to steam that.
I did have to steam these, and that is something that I think a lot of people don't think to do with their vegetables. I see a lot of people roasting vegetables.
Or intimidated by it.
Or that, they might be intimidated by this little gadget here. I know I used to be, but this little gadget is probably one of the handiest things that you could have in your kitchen, and it's really inexpensive. It's a steamer, and it works in several different types of pots. If you have a smaller pot, it's going to cup up like this. And hold some of your vegetables. And then if you have a larger pot, you can kind of spread them out more and get more vegetables in there. But it's really user-friendly and easy to use with just about an inch of water in that pot. And then you let it get to a boil. You put your vegetables on it, put the lid on it, and kind of look and see how long your vegetables need to steam based on maybe the recipe or just until they're tender.
Once it gets to a boil, are you turning the water off?
So I turn it down just a little bit. I don't turn it off all the way because I like my vegetables probably a little bit more tender, but that's just a personal thing for sure there. I let it kind of stay at a simmer level, so that steam is really building up, almost like a rice or something. You want it to get to a boil so it's hot enough, but you want to make sure it's not
simmer as
so
with the lid on.
Yeah, so with that steam to get to it. So like for this recipe and for green beans in general, like when you're on our cards that we have, it talks about steaming those for just about 5 minutes. So it's a really quick process too, if you think about it. So it's not something that's going to take a lot of time in the kitchen. But this, like I said, is really inexpensive, and you can get it and use it in different size pots. You don't have to have a special pot or anything for it. It fits in most pots.
Probably find at your big box store, maybe a dollar store.
Yeah, somewhere like that. And then you just layer your vegetables on it, and then about 5 minutes, based on how tender you want them, then your produce is ready to, incorporate into that recipe or meal that you're wanting to use. So it's a really handy gadget. And if you didn't have one of these, you can steam it in some water without one. It might boil it a little bit different, but you can
It's going to have a more consistent texture.
Yeah, it's a more consistent texture all around than if you just did water in that. But
I love that it has little feet on it. That
so it sits
up.
down, and then you use about, like I said, an inch of water in your pot. And so it sits in the pot, and you just set your produce on top of it. So it's a really handy little gadget to steam. So with this recipe, like I said, I steamed these for about 5 minutes, and I love the color. It's that bright green color, and I think with steaming vegetables, you get that nutrient that you need is left in it.
You're going to cook them less time.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
So for this recipe, like I said, it's a dump recipe, and it's really easy to remember because all of these, except for the lemon juice, is a 1/4 cup. And so all you're going to do is you're going to dump these into this and mix it up. So
when you had these green beans how did you store them before you just put them in the recipe?
To store these right before I put them in this, so the first thing I did is I picked them, and then you snap, and I tore the little stem out of it, and then I store them unwashed in the refrigerator once they're snapped. I hadn't frozen them or anything yet, so these were fresh. These were just snapped this weekend, snapped and then put in the refrigerator. So you want to keep them stored unwashed, though. You want to wash them right before you use them.
Yeah, this handy recipe card suggests that they should be unwashed in a plastic bag in the refrigerator.
And that's what we had them in.
For 3 to 5 days and washed just before preparation.
Just before, yeah. So I washed them just before I steamed them. And then I kind of pick out, some of them have some spots and stuff. I won't throw that green bean out all the way. I'll just snap what I can. But so we're going to get started with this recipe. So this is about 2 pounds of green beans. And I think an easy way to judge a pound of green beans, I think this actually explains it, is by handfuls. So about 3 handfuls is about 1 pound of green beans. So I think that is neat to know because I wouldn't have known that because I looked at it and I was like, I don't know how much 2 pounds is. But that's where these cards come back in handy, is knowing, how much you've got. And so then you're going to do about 1/4 cup of a fat-free Italian dressing, and I'm just going to pour this on, and I'll mix it all up at the end. And I measured all of this out prior to, and then 1/4 cup of that feta cheese, which I have loved during the summer months on salads and on different things. It's a good way to get your dairy and different things like that in. And then 1/4 cup of red onion.
Make some color, pretty color.
I think this is going to look really good. And then 1/4 cup of chopped fresh dill. You could use, if you don't have fresh dill, you could also use, the dill that you buy that you might already have in your pantry. It doesn't have to necessarily be fresh. Fresh is always, it's going to have more flavor. And then 1/4 cup of almonds. And you could chop those. You can keep them whatever consistency you want. And then a teaspoon of lemon juice. And then all you're going to do is mix it up. It's so easy. I like to use tongs for this because I think you can really pick them up and get everything all mixed in and incorporated.
So this fresh recipe, Plated Up Kentucky Proud recipe, recipes like this are available at your local University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. And thank you so much for watching Family Lifestyles. To get more recipes like this, please reach out to us. We would love to help you. Thank you for watching.